Yeah, I should have clicked it 2 minutes ago, and then Dennis could have done that rant.
Everybody.
No,
that would have been good.
Good morning, guys.
We don't need a Dennis rant.
No. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, all.
Morning.
Hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah.
Shannon's with us today. Jerry's out train chasing, so he's going to he's supposed to have pictures and maybe some video for us next time, but he's out train chasing today. But Shannon's here and Bill's back. Good to have you back, Bill. Hope you had a good trip.
It was good.
Stuff.
I got all kinds of stuff.
And next week we're going to have Dave from DES Media Production. Is going to be on the show. So come back next week and you'll see Dave. Or David. Do you prefer Dave or David? I didn't ask you that.
He is in Dave.
And probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to get Evan, the train builder, back on. He got a new locomotive to show us, so he'll be back.
Cool. Yeah.
Did he make the locomotive or did he purchase?
No, he purchased it. It's a little. I think it's a Porter. It's an electric. It's narrow gauge. It's still pretty
Good night.
But he's going to show that thing off. He's been busy. Boy, we got a crew in chat this morning. Holy cow! I'm not going to be able to keep up.
Go ahead and tell us who's here, Steve.
Well, let's see how many people I can miss. We got John. Good morning, John. Buddy Steve Anderson. We got Schuylkill River Valley John. We got Randy Doman. Rayron VR. DES Multimedia. Mike, Deep Run Railroad, Rob T-Man, Rob, Almar. We got Uncle Wilmer, Gerald Stewart. Let's see. Going down. Did I say Almar? I think I did. My bud Bernard. Good morning, Bernard. And by the way, Al was in first. Not Uncle Wilmer, unfortunately. Because he wrong link on. So technically Al was in first.
Did you get Dwight?
Dwight Curley. Yeah.
I think Ron's just jumped in.
And Gail's in here too.
Gail's in.
Yeah, and you missed her.
I missed her. I miss everybody. Anyway, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Well, we don't have anybody on this week, but except for Shannon.
Yeah. I do have a question though.
Go ahead.
Is there a shortage of cork over in America or something?
Cork
I've
road bed?
purchased any in a while.
Yeah, cork road bed.
I haven't purchased. I haven't gotten any in 2 years. But
anyone can answer that question for me because for some dumb reason, it is unbelievably hard to get any cork road bed apart from the split strips from the state.
Okay, you say apart from the split strips, are you talking about like Midwest cork?
Yep.
Road bed?
Yeah.
So what other kind are you talking about?
You know, the really big ones, so when you're doing a yard?
Oh, like sheet cork.
Like a 6-inch sheet?
Yeah.
I know. I've got some of it, but I purchased it a long time ago. I couldn't tell you what the supply is like now.
Well, it's just unfathomable. It's like, well, hang on a second. We order this stuff all the time. How are we not getting the big sheets? What is going on? Is someone eating it over there?
Yeah. Michael McCarville says cork's hard to come by lately. What I bought last time in sheets was actually floor underlayment. And Dennis made a comment on it when he was here because it acts like cork, but it doesn't really look like cork. If you put natural cork down next to it, it looks different, but it acts the same. Yeah. It's got a lot of recycled stuff in it, I think.
Yeah.
But it acts just like cork. And that's what I bought.
A question because with Dennis going on his rant with the track, I was thinking to myself, what's going on with the states and their cork supply? Is someone eating cork over there? Is someone having it for dinner?
Oh, it's probably from the source. It's probably a source problem. I'm not sure where they source that from, but I don't think it's the States.
All right. Well, anyway, that answers my
The material
question.
I don't think originates in the States.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any cork manufacturing plants in the U.S., but I don't know that I would know either. But
yeah,
I assume it all from overseas somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But like I say, if you look for floor underlayment, it can have the same kind of properties. And if that's all you're looking for is sheets, it comes in like a 2x3 piece. And
Yeah.
you get like 5 sheets of it in the box. Do what?
What's the price comparison?
I'm trying to remember what I paid for that. And this has been a year and a half ago. So I was thinking it was around $45. And I had it shipped to Home Depot, so the shipping didn't cost me anything. And I picked it up from Home Depot.
Well, but how much was it as far as?
About $45, I think, something in that area.
$45 for 1 square foot?
No. 2x3 pieces, 2 foot by 3 foot pieces, five of them.
Okay.
In the box. So you got a good amount of cork, or a good amount of the floor underlayment. Like I say, it acts just like cork.
Is it about the same thickness as?
Yep. It's
like
right at that same thickness as the roadbed.
Good.
So it worked really well. Yeah, transitioning from roadbed into the yard, you just butt it right up to it, and it worked really well. If there's a difference, it's very, very small. So you could either shim it or shave it down a little bit, whatever you need to do to make the transition.
It comes in
not
rolls. It
Say
comes
again?
in flat sheets and not rolls.
The one I got came in flat sheets, 5 pieces in a box.
3 by
2x3.
2x3.
Yeah.
I definitely might look into that instead.
I don't know if it was exactly 2x3, but it's real close to that. But yeah, I just went on Home Depot's site and found it, and then I was looking more for the thickness, something that would work for the thickness. And it's the same thickness as the cork roadbed.
Brian says you can also get cork to cover cork boards from Hobby Lobby or Michael.
Yeah, and those are the 1 square foot usually, and those can be more expensive, a lot more expensive.
Yeah, they tend to be thicker too for the craft cork, like almost an inch thick on some cases, or ½ inch.
Yeah, depending on what you're wanting, but yeah, it's usually for a bulletin board or something like that. So they've got to be deep enough to take a pin.
Well,
Michael McCarville says it comes from Spain and Portugal. The cork does.
Yeah.
And Anderson's wine bottles being made.
Yeah. Well, it's a tree, so I mean it comes from trees, so
yeah,
it's wherever they grow those to manufacture it. But like I say, for big sheets, the underlayment worked just fine for me. It acted just like regular cork. It just doesn't look the same, but it's very close. And you're going to cover it anyway with materials, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. But it's cheaper than cork. If you got those sheets in regular cork, it would have been probably close to twice as much.
Yeah. Okay, another question, because obviously I've been MIA for a while. What are we congratulating Chuck for?
I don't know. I saw that too. My wife congratulated him, and I'm curious.
Well, he won Claude's contest.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He also got advanced. You got advanced to some quarterfinals for a motorcycle or something, Chuck? Something along that line.
Oh, awesome.
To win a free motorcycle with it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Brian found some. Didn't recall the price. Where'd you find that, Brian? I know I found some cork sheets about that same size, but they were quite a bit more than the underlayment that I found. So I went with the underlayment. It's the same thickness. And then once I got it, it was almost exactly like regular cork. So maybe a hair stiffer, but the difference in the trains, making
is the material denser as well?
It may have been slightly denser. It held spikes really well. So,
see, the cork that I have, it's a looser density than say the Midwest stuff, but you know, it works just fine near as I can tell. Now I haven't done anything on top of it as far as scenery goes, but I don't expect any issues with ballast or dirt or anything like that with it. I mean,
well, the Midwest cork to me looks more like they took, scrap cork and ground it up,
right.
and then produce that material after that, because it's very small particles. When you break it apart, it crumbles in very small pieces. Whereas the sheet cork isn't like that. It's much bigger chunks, in it. But it works good, and it covers good, big space for a yard or something. So yeah, flooring
Speaking
suppliers.
of big spaces and yards, I would like to have some recommendations of what should I use in a large area like my yard in Frying Pan, where I've got basically the inside of a Y that's mostly yard. What would you guys use for groundwork? Like, do I use dirt? Do I use cinders? Do I use a combination of both? Just out of curiosity.
What kind of yard is it?
Well, I mean, it's a train yard. It's I don't know how to explain it, but basically an engine yard.
Mainly engine facilities.
Do what?
Is it going to be mainly engine facilities, or is there going to be an
Yeah.
industrial too?
I would say primarily an engine yard, trains going in, dumping ashes, maybe getting some water at a water column, going into the engine house, coming back out, turning on the Y, and going back out on the rails.
I'd say, looking at photos from what I remember, a lot of granite rock ballast composition with a lot of soot, black, dirt, weeds. Like, you got to think of it like, obviously when it was first laid, would have all been nice and fresh and grey, or whatever the local ballast supplies.
This would have been in 1900 when it was originally laid. Now I think I'm going to do. My plan is the 1930s, and it's not a terrifically busy yard.
Yeah,
maybe it was 20 years ago, but now it doesn't get as much traffic as it did when it was in the height of its heyday. Maybe I haven't really decided yet, but
yeah. Well, like I said, because normally when I do like a yard or something, I think about, okay, when they got the ballast, was it from a local quarry? Was it imported, et cetera, et cetera? Was it mainly used for? Because obviously, if you lay a big yard and it's mainly engine facility,
it's not big. It's
Yeah.
a very small condensed yard, I would say.
Yeah, but either way, if it's a yard when they first lay it, it'll be fresh, no grass and nothing. But after a few years, depending what it is, like if it was like, say, a cattle industry, there'd be a lot of mud in the ballast. So you just find, a lot of dirt in there, a lot of grass and that. But with an engine facility, it'll be very black, very oily, dirty, sooty. You might have the odd bit of grass popping up here and there, and maybe a weed or two, but because there's so much, because it's kind of like really barren, there's nothing to really feed the ground. It's going to be, very dead.
I don't think there's a cut. My envision of this area is that it's in a valley obviously near a river. So I don't think they would have had to cut anything to create the space. Although they could ship something in from a cut, I suppose.
Bernard, to answer your question that you asked me, yes, they're about the same thickness. My keyboard's messing up, so I was trying to type to you, but it's not wanting to work.
Yeah, so Dennis, I do similar to what Shannon was saying. You'd have your ballast, you'd have dirt. I would use whatever dirt color that you think is appropriate, because you're modeling a more arid type environment. maybe have a couple of piles of ballast in along the tracks where they're using it for like some storage for excess material. A few ties scattered here and there, if a few weeds towards the center of your Y, maybe a little bit more vegetation there, because that would be an area that would be more than likely not tramped on as much. And maybe have you could always have a little switchman shack in there, just for somebody that's working it, and a few little paths going between the different turnouts. But keep it subtle, because it sounds like that's what would fit in best.
I kind of have I wouldn't call this area arid though, and I mean I've been there. I've been there in real life. I took some pictures. To me, the level of greenery in this area, I mean, I think a lot of people get an idea of Colorado, and I'm not saying that there's areas of Colorado that aren't, but I think a lot of people tend to model Colorado a lot more arid than maybe it really is. Michael could probably comment on that maybe a little more than me, but I've got several prototype pictures already pulled into my computer of Basalt and Leadville and the area in between, especially along the river, because that's where this is at. There's two rivers there. It's a confluence of the Frying Pan and the Roaring Fork. It's green, especially in early spring, and which I think that's my plan is an early spring time frame, or early to midsummer, and I think it needs to be green myself. But
so there you go. You've already talked what you need to do, and you could even add a splash of color with spring flowers in some of the vegetated areas.
Yeah. And Colorado's a unique animal because of the mountains. The whole eastern half of the state is farmland, flat as a pancake, and farmland like Kansas is.
Right.
You get to the mountains and into the mountains, and you get in the middle of the mountains. So you get just west of Pikes Peak. That's very flat area in there, that South Park, and it's relatively arid in there. There's not a lot of trees and stuff. Of course, a lot of it was farmed at one time, I think, or cattle on it. But you get just west of there where the Arkansas River starts through, and Buena Vista, they don't get but 10 or 12 inches of rain a year. But you go 30 minutes in any direction, and you can be in 400 inches of snow every year.
Yeah, you got the dry side.
Because the mountains do what they do.
Right.
Yeah. It all depends on where you're at. And you get to the northwest part of Colorado, up by Dinosaur National Monument and stuff, up on that high plateau, and that can be pretty arid. So it just depends on where you're at. Southwest Colorado's outside the mountains. When you get over toward Utah, it gets pretty arid over there. The other side of Durango.
I think another way to try and figure out what the yard might look like is, obviously the railroad's no longer there in some aspect, but have a look at things happening in the area. Like, say if they're, I don't know, they just demolished a building, and it was demolished 6 months ago. How much vegetation's now there? Because obviously not a lot of people will be walking on it. But then look at an area where they're building a new building, are the weeds and grass and, wildflowers, whatever, growing quickly, or is it staying somewhat dead from all the foot traffic and whatnot? And it'll give you a similar idea to how Aurelia would be, because it'll be similar. More traffic going through it, depending on what the vegetation's like, it'll flourish to some aspect, or it'll just stay barren.
Yeah. And no matter what you do, it's not going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because I
guess really what I'm trying to decide is, should I use cinders for my ballast, or should I use something, brown in nature instead of cinders?
They probably wouldn't have used cinders for ballast. That would have been just on top of everything else from the locomotives. I don't know that they would have actually used that for ballast as such.
Yeah, a
Well,
base
even
coat.
with cinders, when the snow comes, the snow as it melts will probably wash a lot of the cinders away or wash it into the ballast anyway.
Yeah. So what I did on mine was I used just a brown, cover to make it look like ground. And I haven't gone in with detail foliage yet anywhere, but then I just took the cinders and put them where I thought they would be. And I may add more, around the engine house, around the engine facilities, the coaling tower, stuff like that. There wouldn't be as much in the yard itself, but there would be some, but it's going to be much more subtle there, I would think. But there again, anything you do is not going to be wrong, because it would have changed. Any given parcel of land through years is going to change, especially if man's been through there.
Right.
and
I'm just
if
wanting to
stuff
make it
leaves,
look,
then it changes.
I guess believable is kind of is my thing, is as long as it looks believable, and I don't want to start with something that wouldn't make sense, so to speak.
Yeah.
Dennis, have you looked at any aerial photographs of the area?
Oh yeah, I've got it pulled up on Google Maps right now as far as today goes.
Yeah.
And
So,
there's
so
not a
you
lot
might-
of evidence of what it looked like in 1930.
So
there
there
are
were
pictures.
there were extensive flights over the country back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. You might want to try like the courthouse in the area, just see if they've got databases of aerial photographs. When I did environmental consulting years ago, that's something that we would always check on. We'd always go into courthouses because we could get aerial photographs of areas from the 60s, 50s, 30s, sometimes the 1920s. And it's usually, focused more on urban areas, although they would cover like entire states with aerial flight paths just to get the data. So there's probably some historical evidence from the air back in the time frame that you're looking to model.
Well, that no longer, I forget what year it was they pulled up the track. It would have been probably by 1925. There was no track there anymore.
Yeah, it'd still show on the aircraft.
I've got a
photo.
picture of Basalt in 1950. It's a ghost town in 1950. It was a thriving metropolis in 1920.
Yeah.
And by 1950, it was almost non-existent. And now it's a pretty good little town, but it might be as big now as it was in 1920. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
so if you could find any, if there were some taken, and I suspect there were, you'd probably have some good evidence from the air that would still show where the tracks used to be. It would still show some of the color or the gradients of color. Obviously they'd be in black and white from those, but you'd be able to kind of see light or dark, and it might help with what you're looking for.
I've definitely done extensive Google searches. That's one of the disappointing things about Basalt versus Blackhawk. I can't find a Sanborn map, period, for it.
Yeah.
That would be a proverbial gold mine if I could find one of those, but apparently either they don't exist or I'm not good enough about searching and finding them, because all of the information about building sizes and what they were would be on the Sanborn map, but I can't find one.
You looked at the government website for it?
Yeah, what is it, Smithsonian? I forget the name of the site, but it's basically the Smithsonian.
Yeah, it's got everything that's potentially available. Yeah.
What I'll do, I'll see if I have any books at work. I'll have a quick look through my lunch break and see if I can find any photos that might help with reference.
Yeah, I've got a few books too. I'll look through mine. I've got several narrow gauge history books, so I'll look through those and see if I can find any pictures of Basalt. Although the narrow gauge didn't go through there, so whether they'll be in a narrow gauge book, I don't know. The
Colorado Midland, in my opinion, was a narrow gauge railroad that was just used with standard gauge rail. There's, other than the equipment and the distance between the rails, it's virtually identical. Just because of how they laid it and the speed at which they laid it and the area they transversed, it was really a bad idea, probably. It's the reason why it didn't last much longer than it did, because the snow in those mountains just destroyed that railroad, and less than 10 years, give or take. But I think the best analog I have today is the Durango and Silverton. That's, when I look at anything like how should the yard look, that's probably what I'm going to go with is what does the Durango and Silverton look like today, and use that as my, I don't know, my reference photos for what I'm going to do in my yard. That's probably what I'm going to do, because I think that would be the best analog for what's going on.
The Chama yard would be good too.
Right, both of those, yeah.
You could even try the Antonito yard on the northern end of that line. The town itself is not very big, but they've got a fairly decent yard there. Big balloon track that goes all the way around. How they turn the train back, but they've got engine facilities and stuff there too. So there might be. But Chama's got quite a bit of rolling stock in their yard. The yard goes well past the depot. Down on the end, they don't run trains on anymore, but they keep all of the stuff that they're going to rebuild down on that yard. So, and of course, they still got the coaling tower there and all that stuff too. So you can get a good look there.
Heath says, build your railroad, take photos of it, convert them to black and white, then tell people that they're your prototype photos. Then you'll have built the
Good idea.
I know what Heath did with all his
like
homework
in
assignments.
1930. Trust me.
Yeah, I know what Heath did with all his homework assignments now.
Well, let's see what Steve's been up to. I know Steve's got something going on.
Yeah, he has.
Oh, not really, not much. I'm just lighting up the back of my caboose. Let me fix.
Show us.
You don't want to see it.
Yeah, we do.
No, you don't.
Actually, once Steve sorts himself out,
Show him
over
the
the last
possibility.
few weeks I've been seeing the Facebook memories Steve puts up of himself when he was younger, and I look at it and go, "That's not Steve."
What are you talking? Okay. Anyway, I'm getting the getting the back of the caboose for some details, and I put in some batteries with some little light switches on the corners for the little marker lights.
Oh, nice.
So
That's beautiful.
And there is going to be a little potbelly stove right in here, somewhere around there. It's got a little light in it, a little red light for the. Kind of hard to see, but hang on. Let me put down, and I'll show you something here. Just a second.
And guys, keep in mind, Steve built these, everything but the trucks. He built these from scratch. These cars.
Yeah, everybody wants plans for them, and I don't have plans.
All the plans are in your head.
Yeah.
So anyway, if I turn off the light, second. Okay.
There you go.
So it'll look something like that.
Oh, that looks great.
That's wicked.
And you get the little pot belly in there. I'm just going to put a couple of seats with, seat in the corner with a desk in there. Nothing fancy, just to kind of give it an illusion of an interior.
So
Next
Steve,
minute will be a miniature Claude, a miniature Steve, miniature Dennis, Bill.
pictures looking out the windows. So Steve,
Are you going to put a smoke unit in the potbelly stove?
Oh, maybe eventually.
So Steve, any place that you take these, do they do night running?
Yeah, they do.
Cool.
So, you're supposed to have an end of marker. I've got a flashing thread that'll go on the rear of the knuckle of the caboose. But the problem with running at night is with trying to light this thing up so you can see the gauge. And really the hard part is being able to see water sight glass in there, because I think I'll probably just end up having to run with a headlamp on my forehead, so I can see, 'cause I got to be able to see this beam gauge.
Yeah, like a miner's cap.
Yeah, but no, it's all ready to go. I'm probably going to take it out next weekend, not this one, but next one. And I had to re-glue all the wood down. That was an old story of not gluing it down properly, but I had to redo everything on the glue on that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it out. But yeah, the caboose turned out really nice. Really like the markers on it.
Yeah, that looks great.
And you could just reach up and click off the lights. Pretty simple, but that's what I've been up to. Nothing fancy, but okay. Enough of me.
Well, looks great.
That does. Yeah.
Okay, Bill, your turn.
All right.
What have you been up to?
This week, I can at least stay at my little workbench, and I'll show you what I've been doing here. So not a whole lot on the layouts. Past couple of weeks been doing other things, but some of the stuff, and I'll see if you can see this. First off is, you can get these resin kits that have details. So this was all, this pile, one piece, and I took it to my scroll saw and cut them so that I could get multiple pieces for detailing. And then I touched them up a little bit with some paints just to kind of give it a little bit more character and color. But from one piece, I ended up getting 5 different sections that I can put over in that ON30 service area. And it'll look more realistic because it's smaller piles rather than one big blob that has, sharp edges. I can scatter these around. I can do different things with them. So I'm quite happy with that.
And who makes them?
I don't remember right offhand. I know they make them in all different scales. It's a well-known company. I just don't remember the name right off the bat.
Rusty Stumps, maybe?
It's
Rusty
Rail. Rusty Rail, I think.
It's possible. Like. I got a cluster of these in an eBay purchase, and most of them were small, which fit right on the layout. This one was just, a big, like 3x5 piece. So using the scroll saw made quick work of making some individual chunks. So that's one thing that I've been doing. Another, at the hobby shop this past week, I got another smoke generator. Definitely not at that price. I got it at like half of that price. Has its own smoke fluid and other stuff. So I'm going to put another smoke unit in somewhere in the engine service area, just so that I've got a little smoke I can have come out of that on occasion. Next thing that I did is, this is my first scratch build. So for the ON30, the little dock area. Now this was part of a kit of 2 little sheds, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to just glue the shed on top of the loading dock. But the loading dock was all scratch built, got all of the details underneath, the cross bracing. I did everything, and that I used that little chop saw that I was talking about last time I was on a couple of weeks ago. Did great. So I'm really, really happy with getting that purchase from Harbor Freight, making the little stairs. So my first scratch build experience here, and it turned out pretty good, I think. It looks
good.
And then I've been scratch building more trees. So these are, real small versions of what I've been doing large scale. So, an end scale 50-foot BoxCar. So all 3 of these little trees, which are grapevine wire trunk and then florist wire for the arms, the limbs, this is under 3 inches tall. And kind of the same methods, you get nice shaped tree. And I've come up with a way of doing the florist wire, which is super simple on really small trees like this. And I'm going to do a video on how I did that here. But these are perfect trees for N and Z scale. This one is a prototype of like what I did here. This is 6 inches tall, but even for end scale, you know, if you've got a tall pine forest, you've got trees that will look pretty good in that. And then for HO scale, you know, this is about a 40-foot tree, about a 100-foot tree in end scale. So again, just been kind of having some fun. And then I'll show you just a little bit of what I got when I was at the hobby shop. I got to find
And
where
saying that, Bill, I'll definitely be watching your video because for my NN3, I'm going to need trays about that scale for my stuff.
What's really nice is the way that I do the wires. I can build one of these very, very, very quickly. I could probably knock out a dozen in an hour and a half in the evening. They are super simple, and you know, I stumbled on a way of doing the wire, and maybe somebody else has already done it. I just have never seen a video on YouTube on how I did it. So they turn out really well. Coming over this way, and I'll move slow for Dennis. Is let's see, that's not.
Hey, Dennis, when's your birthday?
Who?
When's your birthday?
My birthday?
Yeah,
May 8th.
I'm buying you some motion sickness tablets.
All right. So before the show, we were talking a little bit about my trip to Iowa and the caboose stop hobbies. And when I was there, I bought a whole bunch of kits, old wood kits, pseudonym kits and stuff for like $1, $2, $3. And I was talking with Carell, one of the folks that owns the hobby shop there, and just saying, you know, hey, I'm buying scratch building stuff. You know, I'm starting to do it and I'm having fun with it. And I'd been to this hobby shop for years and years. So I knew that they had a large plastic bin of just loaded with this stuff, which is, you know, scale lumber, piles of it. All of this I found out was in it as well. Brand new stuff. You know, the flat type pieces. There's brass rod. Even an O scale ladders were in there, and some other detail stuff. So I was asking, you know, how much? Because I was going to buy it. And it, like I said, it had been there for years because I'd been looking at it at years and no changes. Nothing had been added or taken out. So I got all of this for $25, which is just fantastic. You know, I got plenty of scratch building stuff for a while.
That's
So
cool.
that was a really nice purchase for that. You know, I got a bunch of freight cars of all scales, HO, N, and O that I bought. A variety of other things. And then one other purchase that I got that I was quite pleased with was this one, the Shinahara. And this is, if I can get it out, code 70. So this I'm going to use when I do my next HO scale. This is why you always go to a hobby shop that's been around for a while, because you can dig under the counters and in boxes. This I found kind of at the back of a box of an area where they had cork road bed and HO scale flex track. Got this for under $25.
Wow.
So I'm quite happy about it. I already know where it's going to go in the grand scheme of things when I do that next HO scale layout. So this I was super happy with. I got another HO scale, a code 70 Shinahara, you know, like a number, I think it was a number 6 switch for like $6, brand new as well. So that's why if you've got an old hobby shop that's been around for a while in your area, go in, get to know them, and dig through the boxes, dig behind stuff, because you never know what you're going to find. So that's what I've been up to.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good haul, Bill.
That's not bad. And I'll, you know, in the video that I've been making that'll come out, I don't know, in a few weeks, you know, it shows the kits. There's a lot of wood kits, craftsman kits that I got for, you know, like I said, a few bucks. I know one kit that I got for like $5. It's simply parts. There's a bunch of scratch building possibilities from it, but there's other kits that were marked $2, $3, that parts, because they'd been opened. And I think everything's there, which is including an HO scale brewery, which I think your son was putting together there, Claude, similar to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like $2. So I'm going to be sitting down this weekend and just kind of going through some of those kits and comparing the materials list just to see if I've got some that are worth actually putting them all together. And if not, it's okay, because there's tons of materials in there that I can use for stuff in the future as I get into it. Because I really like building things, and scratch building is going to be something I'm going to have some fun with.
Yeah, well, you can build whatever you want that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, scratch building's fun if you've got the patience to do it. I know a lot of people don't like messing with that kind of stuff, but it's fun. I like adding to kits I like finding a really neat looking kit and then adding or changing it a little bit. I find it's real fun to do.
Throw up Brian's question. He's got a polarity on helix problem.
Excuse me.
Maybe
if I check every level of my helix with power meter and every level shows the exact same rating, would that suggest I have plenty of power drop? Wondering if I need to add. Yeah, I would say so, Brian. If you're getting the same reading, on every level, I would think you've got plenty of power drop. And no bigger than your helix is for that end scale. It's not a long way for the power to have to run through the rails either. But if you put a drop at every turn, every revolution of the helix, I would think would be more than enough.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah. So I guess the question back to him would be, is he seeing an issue?
Okay,
right. That was my question. Well,
slipping along, not sure which it could be. Having turned power up a little high, and I'm wondering if more power drops would help.
if that's what's going on.
One thing I would do, and I don't have a helix, but I think just from common sense, is run a train, see what it does, and then reduce the number of cars behind that same engine and run it again and see if it behaves differently.
Yeah, or start with just the engine and add cars and then see where that starts, because it sounds like it's a pulling issue on the engine more than anything else.
Yeah, because it's getting power. It's just gradually gravity is having its effect as it's pulling a train up, the way it sounds.
Yeah.
And if you're messing with DCC, your back EMF will also be a factor to consider how it behaves. If it's got the digital, it's DDE. But basically, it's the sensitivity level to how you react to both the sound and how the engine behaves on a grade. If it's factory settings, which most of us keep them at factory settings,
well,
could maybe tweak those a little bit and get different results, but definitely check the power first.
Well, the other thing that we tend to forget, I know I do, is when you're running a grade, it's not just the slope of the grade, the percentage of the grade. If you're going around a corner, it adds to that. So it adds to the effect of what's going to happen. So you have to take that into account. And there's a website that I had found, and I don't have it right here with me, but it shows, it's a grade calculator, and in that it has you can put a radius in too, and that will add and give you the right grade to have.
That's what I used.
Yeah.
Railway or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. He says he's DC, not DCC, so ignore everything I said. I was thinking he was DCC.
Yeah, I think what Claude said, run it, add cars to it so that the maximum length that you can get before you see a performance issue.
But that's what it sounds like, unless it's stopping in the same spot every time. But even that could be a pulling issue still, because if you've got you're fairly even all the way, but one spot it's a little bit steeper, it could hit that same spot and slip. I know the Blackstone engines will do that if it's if you've got too many cars on it or it's too steep a grade. Yeah. They'll sit there and run, but they won't go up the hill.
Well, the curvature adds restrictive too. I mean, it's the same way with
Yeah.
you know, the grade and curvature of the track will all restrict either going up or going down.
Okay.
I know on mine, according to that site, an 18-inch radius curve on a 2% grade turns it into a 3% grade, give or take.
Yeah. That's exactly what we're thinking, that Brian, is it's happening in one spot where it's a little more steep percentage of grade, and hitting that spot and just wanting to slip then. Yeah, that's not a power issue. That's a pulling issue.
Probably.
Yeah, so if you've got any ability to lessen the grade in that area where you're talking that it's extreme, you'll see some benefit if you can.
That, or if you can double up the power, you know, put more power on it, that'll help. That's what
Double
I
head.
in mine all the way through, is double heading a lot of stuff going up the mountain.
That's what I'm going to have to do. I've already figured out, if I really want to run a 10-car train from here up to Silver Gulch and Frying Pan, I'm really going to need a double head to get it done. Unless it's my K37. My K37 will pull 10 cars with no issues up. But the K27s, even though I tested them, it now kind of depends on the rolling stock too. If I put all Blackstone without a Blackstone caboose, they might do it. I haven't actually tried that yet, but just a collage of what's on there, because some of my cars are considerably heavier than others. Some of them roll freer than others. You know, it's just one of those things that there's all sorts of little variants that can help or hinder the ability to pull a grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes it pretty typical as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing, Shannon. They still deal with that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
in modern day
and the upside as well. The upside as well is, I don't know how many engines you have in your collection, but if you have a few, you could always just rotate, have one sitting at the bottom of the grade in a siding, and you know, when a train comes up, you connect it up to the back, push it up.
Yeah. That's a plan.
Yeah, that's a problem with DC, Brian, is finding two locomotives that run pretty close together, because you can't really speed match them any with DC. At least I've never heard of any that you could do that way. But most guys, if they run two engines, they just find two that are pretty close and then run them. And usually what ends up happening, if you run them enough and they're too far apart, you're going to mess one or both of them up eventually. So, but that's the nice thing about DCC, because then you can try to speed match it a little bit.
What I used to do when I was running DC was, whatever engine was faster, I used to get that to pull the load, because the load would slow it down a bit, and then have the slower engine at the front, because it'll take up the extra weight when needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the slower engine in front.
Yeah, slower engine in the front and the faster one pulling the train.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You just need more engine.
Say again?
Oh, Brian just needs to buy more engines so he can speed match.
We all need more engines. Yeah, that's you know, that's an issue that I found real quick on mine. Was that the Blackstones, I've got one fairly sharp corner. It's actually sharper than what they say the engine will go on, or what they recommend. It will go around it, but it doesn't like pulling anything around it. So it's definitely going to have two engines on it going up the hill. And then once I get around that, the helix is not, I don't think, going to be a problem, but getting around that first corner is going to be tough. And I already had it all put in before I realized it was, you know, sharper than what it should have been. But too late now. I'm not going to change it. So,
yeah.
Anyway, any other questions we got?
We got to congratulate you on a 300 subs. Pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was kind of an accident. I don't even know how that happened, but I'm actually about 325 now. And I don't know how that happened, except that I changed my name and put Model Railroad in the name. And now I'm getting more people watching stuff. By the way, I know Chuck was in here. You guys need to email. Well, I got your stuff, Chuck, but I need to get the other guys that were drawn in front of you to contact me so I can find out what they want, and then we'll figure out what you can have. Because I found that little chop saw, and I put that up for a prize. So, somebody wants it, it'll make a good little prize. I probably won't ever use it. I know that'd be another thing on my bench I don't need.
Oh, come on, you can never have too much.
Yeah, that's what my wife thinks.
And
Except
saying
when
Does
I'm
it
not
have
looking at my
a-
stuff.
Does it have a miter capability, or is it just a straight chop?
No, it's got miter capability if it's the same one I got.
I don't know. I haven't even looked at it that close, Dennis. It might have. I haven't looked at it that close. I did check it to make sure it runs.
So it's adjustable.
Yeah, it looks just like that one. What's the brand name on that?
Drill Master.
Okay, and it's not the same brand, but that's probably a knockoff of the one that I've got.
More than likely, yeah.
I sure could use that when I was building the cab on this thing. That would have come in really handy.
Well,
I used
the
my
blade on it is about the size of a 50-cent piece.
Yeah.
2-inch diameter blade.
Or a silver dollar. It's not very big.
Yeah, but the wood.
I use my miter razor saw that I bought from Claude back when we had that auction. I used it in building my coal trestle that I'm working on right now, and it works. But I tell you what, one of those little miter saws like what Bill's got and what you're getting rid of, that sounds tempting, especially if you're going to do a lot of it.
Yeah.
Harbor Freight, the price really is not bad.
No, it's not bad. And even if it only lasts you a couple of years, by then you'd probably be done with doing what you're going to do with it. That's the thing about Harbor Freight. You never know if the tool's going to last when it's an electrical tool, if it's going to last well enough or not. But I've bought stuff there that I knew I was only going to use once. But it's cheaper than buying a real good one and never using it,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I've talked to guys, in the business I was in, I've talked to guys that had stuff from Harbor Freight, power tools that they've had for 10 years. I don't know if you could do that now or not, but, they've always been fairly inexpensive as far as how the tool's made, quality on the tools. Oh, what do we got here? Okay. Brian's got a question for you, Shannon. Put the best puller or newest engine in the back of the ABB set if I run through. Shannon's asleep.
No. So out of those three locos, Brian, figure out which one's the fastest and put that against the train. The two slower ones you put in front.
Okay, there you go.
Makes sense.
And saying that, anyone want to look at this?
There's words of wisdom from Sparky right there.
Yeah.
If you use something too much when it's new, it will not be new anymore.
Okay, what are we looking at, Shannon?
So believe it or not, that's my control board for my switch points for my NN3 layout I'm currently working on.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
So it's for I'm using cobalt machines instead of tortoises, but you could use this for tortoise motors, but yeah. All on a dot matrix PCB board.
Cool.
Well, there you go.
Neat.
Looks confusing, but I've tested it. It all works. All the LEDs light up accordingly to the direction of the cobalt motor. And it's in a very nice small package.
It looks like Dennis is only in miniature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still got to finish it. I've got to get some perspex to put over the top of it, cut out all the holes and whatnot, so the LEDs and lights fit through it accordingly. But yeah, that was a good 2-3 days of working doing that.
Yeah, I guess.
Are those
the
that's
hardest part
crossovers?
was literally the leg bone connects to the knee bone and all that kind of BS.
Well, that's the thing about the hobby. You know, there's an aspect all on its own, just the electronics part, that, see, to me, I would never try to tackle that because that's not what I like doing. So I wouldn't even want to try and learn to do that.
Well, I know a lot of people would look at that and go, that's complicated. But all I've really done is I've got a plug on the back, all right, 50 pins. And I just basically, instead of using a wire going to the point motor, the wire goes to an associated pin that goes to that point motor.
Yeah.
And I think each point motor, let's see, there's 5 wires that goes to each point motor. So,
well, it's not that it necessarily is that hard. It's just I don't have any interest in doing that. So that's not something I would try to do. I wouldn't even try to learn it because it's not what I want to do. But that's fine. There's enough other stuff in the hobby that keeps me interested. But for people that like the electronics, they may not like the bench building or the track laying or, you know, detailing or weathering or whatever, you know, whatever, tree building, whatever it is. And so
If you're
they find
Keith,
another
you
way
enjoy
to
the
get
electronics way more than you enjoy building structures. Most people, it's the other way around.
that. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's something where you could get into a little horse trading if you've got fellow modelers close by. If somebody likes electronics, it's like, hey, you want to help me do this? And then, you know what? I know you hate doing this, but I love doing it. Let's kind of work something out.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And that's the great thing about, one of the great things about the hobby is there's so many different aspects to it that there's going to be something in there you really like doing. And there's going to be something you really hate doing, or like the very least, out of all the stuff. And that's just the way it is. And Brian said,
I don't know if I've mentioned or not, but the whole LCC route configuration in Frying Pan, I absolutely love it. It is the greatest thing ever as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, and that's not something that I would even attempt to do. And like I said, I wanted my turnouts to have to be operated as the engineer's going along, because that gives you something to do other than just turn the throttle. But
one of the things I really like about it is that once I make a decision where I am and where I'm going, I push a button and then I get to watch the train. It really puts my focus back on the layout and not on which I'm going to go through 4 different turnouts between here and there. Let me double check, and either on a light panel, or because I didn't want to do the light paneling. That's really what I didn't want to mess with, was like what Shannon's got up, where you got multiple LEDs and all of the I'm drawing a blank on what you need for every LED.
Yeah, no, on here I've got switches, LEDs, resistors, wire.
Yeah. I didn't want to mess with any of that. Yeah. And so that's what the one single push button does. But now with the quick link, you know, I can configure the light either on or off if the route is currently chosen. So I get a green light for the current route that's chosen and a red light for everything else.
Yep.
So
quick question. Oh, damn it, I lost it. George of the Sunbelt said something about, why don't I use card edge connections? What's a card edge connection?
Card edge?
Are they talking about ribbon cable connections?
That's what I've got, is ribbon cable.
That's what it sounds like. Well, and then who was it? Somebody else asked a question I was going to put up here for you. Okay, Happy Valley has. Why did you use the card edge connection? That's on the back. Your 50 pin on the back. That's what he's talking about. Why did you not use a card edge connection?
So have I or have I not?
I don't know. I just saw his question. I don't know what he's actually asking for, but that's a pin connector.
Like, what's a card edge connection like? That probably is the connection. I just don't know. Because we don't call it a card edge connection here in Australia. We call it. Well, actually, I don't even know. I think we call it a PCI connector. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Tomato, potato.
Being like a PCIe connector.
Oh, yeah. No, hang on. Where's my cable? Where's my cable?
Make it quick. We're at our hour already.
Yeah, I got a scooter.
Yeah,
that's what connects onto the layout.
How many total pins is that?
50.
50. And is there any voltage carried through all of that? I mean, like with LCC, I'm carrying 5 volts on lines 5 and 6. And then the configuration with the CID is on the other lines. Is the power to the tortoises separate, or is the power to the tortoises configured in that?
No, the power for the tortoise is configured in that. So I basically
they're coming from a different location. Okay.
Yeah, so I got power voltage going in enough to power the tortoises. The resistors drop down the voltage for the LEDs, but otherwise, I think it's 16 volts in, 16 volts out, with 3 volts for the LEDs and relays. Yeah, I was just trying to think of a way how to eliminate having a very annoying loom without making it overcomplicated.
I hate to interrupt you.
Yep. We're at the end of the show, guys. Yeah, we've already run a couple 3 minutes over, so we got to say goodbye.
Well, we started a couple 3 minutes late, so
there you go. Well, everybody in chat, thanks for coming. And next week we'll have Dave from DES Multimedia. I'm gonna get that right. And we'll see you next week. Dennis and Shannon, thanks for joining us today, Shannon.
That's right.
Yep. Bill, good to have you back. Yep. Steve, as always, man. You guys have a good one. We'll see you later.
All right, take care, everybody.
Peace.
See you.